G'day and welcome to episode 2 of More Cowbell Please. This week we have Doug Weir. Now Doug Weir is a new guy in town. He's only been in Nashville for around 2.5 years, but he has been on the national scene for like 5 or 6 years. So he's really just a couple of chapters into his story. But I had fun having him over, hearing what's going on for him. He's had an amazing amount of success. His first national breakout hit was Already Home by a band called Mercy Me. So that was a big one. He's had a bunch since then. In fact, see this current radio chart. This is happening right now. Next week, we've got Ian Eskelin. Now, he is a 4-time Dove winner. He was producer of the year twice. He is a fun guy. You're going to enjoy that conversation. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications, and like, comment. But for now, this is Doug Weir. Let's get into it. So that's it. We're calling this meeting to order.
I get to do it next time.
All right. We have in the studio today Mr. Doug Weir. Mr. Doug Weir is the new hot mixing guy in town. Everybody's using him.
Wow.
He is good.
Hello.
Episode number 2.
Number 2. Feels good.
Welcome to my space.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And I just started using these bad boys.
Oh, the NS10s.
Favorite thing ever.
It's like, put it through some bad speakers, and if you make it sound good on that,
Exactly.
you're rocking.
Yep. I know we're not supposed to talk about how to, but it's like, so I'll mix on another pair of speakers, and I'll pull them up on these, because I'm not used to starting a mix on them. I can't do it at all. Right. But I'll pull them up, and it'll be like, oh, there's obvious clashing. Yeah. You clear that up, you put it back on the speakers you're used to, and it's like, oh my gosh, so much depth.
What I love to do is get origin story, where you're from, how you got going in music.
I just always loved music. We grew up on like 70s rock, soft rock and like classic rock stuff. One of my earliest memories is Steely Dan, the song Peg. I remember hearing that probably when I was like 6. I actually never thought I would be like good enough to play music. I would try to keep beat with the drummer in a record that I was listening to, and I was like, this is too hard. I'll never be a musician. My first like intro into music was being able to play in concert bands, so I started off on trumpet. Decided a few years later that was really lame, but my dad would not let me quit because he's actually a really accomplished trumpet player. I asked for guitar, and he said, if you keep playing trumpet for like this amount of time, then I'll let you get a guitar. So I had to suffer through and play trumpet until I was allowed to get my Ibanez Iceman, which is super legit.
Iceman.
Yeah.
Is that like a metal guitar, or is that like...
The reason I wanted it was because my favorite band, System of a Down, Darren Malakian, the guy who played guitar, had that. And it's such a cool shape. It's almost that BC Rich vibe, but a little more elegant and not so like witch metal looking.
Funny.
So, that was my first intro into music. I was probably 12 when I got my first guitar. And I just like literally locked myself in my room and played all day and tried to learn Metallica, Megadeth riffs. There's a theme here. I was really into like hard, heavy rock stuff and fast, like shredding Metallica riffs, like the early Ride the Lightning stuff. I just love distortion, power chords, and that type of thing. But as I got older, wanted to play with friends and learn how to play together. And it never went well, and it was never satisfying to me until my first lesson in arrangement was that movie School of Rock, 2005, where Jack Black is like lining them up to play their first like rock band song, and it's Smoke on the Water. And to see how the bass player does something, like plays quarter notes, and then the keyboard player plays like a fifth an octave on the keyboard, eighth notes. It allows a guitarist to play the riff over the top of it, and everyone's playing something different, but it's all working together, and it just kind of like blew my mind. It clicked for me, and I understood what arrangement was. Over the years, formed bands. When we finally started getting serious, I think I was like 16 or 17, and that's where you come into the story. Oddly enough, we were a 5-piece band. It was a female singer, violin player, I was a guitar player, bass, and drums. And our violin player was like the band manager, so she was looking for opportunities, trying to further, what we were doing. So she found this guy who ran Band with a Mission, which I just found out you were involved with to some extent.
Yeah.
So this guy, we played our songs for him in a showcase. We drove down to Nashville, and our songs were just awful, terrible. I didn't know like a chorus from a verse. Like I just wrote.
Oh, really?
There's pieces of I coming from that Metallica song structure thing where the opening riff goes for a minute and it's so boring, and then there's like 3 verses and instrumental bits, and it's just like I think I got started off on the wrong music. So he kind of reined me in. We would communicate back and forth. Like we were in Illinois, and Austin would email, text us, here are some songs you need to copy the structure of. This is a good song. Notice what the hook is. Notice what the verse is. I remember like Jimmy Eat World was on that list. It's such an odd song to be on there. Love Fool by the Cardigans. It taught me my first lesson in songwriting. Going further, he took a trip up to Illinois to do some tracking to like develop these songs that we were writing with him long distance. At one point, it was me and him in a unfinished spec home, which was Skylar, our singer's dad, was a contractor, so he had these empty homes, and it was winter, freezing cold. We were in an unfinished basement with my Marshall cab, recording guitar parts that we would send to you to mix. I wonder when you got those tones, if you're like, it sounds like these guys recorded in the garage.
I've never questioned where the audio comes from.
Yeah.
Like how it got there.
Yeah.
My job is to make the best of what I have,
right,
rather than complain about what I have. I do know, Austin in those days when he would send me stuff, he'd always be apologetic for quality and everything.
Like, it's funny.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
If it sounds good, it is good.
Right. Well, long story short, it sounded awesome. Like, you mixed it up and it just blew all of our minds. We sounded exactly like we dreamed, which was like Paramore, because this was 2008 and they were all the rage. They were all the guitars we tracked, but I remember one song, there was completely new guitars. But it was a different part. The arrangement wasn't right, and he had to get somebody else on it. That was kind of my first big lesson in music production and the start into the music business, because Austin hooked us up with a booking agency, so we actually toured and traveled. And then the band kind of fizzled, decided that, I don't know, the band thing was lame, and I didn't want to do it anymore, and went back to like community college.
So did you come from like a church background or any of that?
Definitely. Yeah. That was the interim between when I was in my first band that you mixed. I went to college and I got really involved in worship leading at my church. So I thought there was a 2-year period where I thought that was my path. I wanted to be a worship leader.
Like singing and leading? Or
yes.
Just, wow.
Which is not I don't know what I was thinking. It's not my strong suit. I guess I imagined me like relying on my arranging skills and like, if I could hack singing. I took voice lessons. I went through the whole thing. So I did get really involved, spent probably 15 hours per weekend volunteering, like for free at the church. Well, I mean, so many people do that, obviously. But yeah, that was my life. Worship leading was a huge part of my music story, definitely. It's like one of the few places that foster musicianship and teach you how to play with a band. So many bands, even like not Christian bands, come from churches, I've noticed. Another band recruited me, and I don't know, I gave in, and I toured with them for 7 years. We were a Christian pop rock band. We were independent, but we did pretty well for a minute. We won this Christian festival contest where we got to be on every single festival, so we did get some traction, some listeners, and then we got our music on some Dude Perfect videos, which... got our streams up majorly. There was some success, but I was doing a lot of the production and songwriting and that type of thing. And I really wanted to transition off the road and do the production thing full time. We met with labels back when we were like kind of having some traction. Really, the only label we met with was Fair Trade, and I met an A&R guy there. Just remembered who he was. And so when I was transitioning out of the band, doing production jobs just through word of mouth, I remembered my buddy at Fair Trade and set up a Nashville meeting, drive down to Nashville, do some meetings, and then go back, keep it up. When we met, I remember, I guess I was getting into mixing at the time. He was talking about mixing, and I'm like, I'm a mixer just by necessity. That's not really my thing. And he's like, we need more mixers. That was something to go off. Probably months or a year later, he came to me with an opportunity where they needed a mix done quick and it needed to be on spec. But I just put everything I had into this mix. It took me 2 days. This is a funny story. The producer sabotaged me. And we're friends now, and he loves telling the story. He's like, yeah, I took all the plugins off. I was sabotaging you. I wanted you to lose. And it's so funny because I still work with him. He made me do a better job because I started clean. It took forever with the high track count, like 215, 230.
Amazing.
They take a long time. So that song kind of did something for that band. It kind of like got my foot in the door with this Christian music industry. That was it. After that, people would trust me more. And it wasn't like a super quick, like, okay, everyone, there's a new mixer. It took a while to like gain more people's trust.
You're not living in Nashville at this point.
No, I'm still in Illinois, mixing in a very dingy basement with green carpet and purple walls. It was so ghetto. If there's anything I learned by being in a band, it's being really resourceful. If something breaks, you don't have the thing that you need, so you like MacGyver it out something else. So I've always been like that. My studio doesn't look pretty, but it sounds great. And that's a result of MacGyvering. That is my entry into the career that I have now. But I always think, like, as far as mixing goes, you never know if it was a career until you're done.
Exactly right.
Well, what's funny is the first year I started, I had a rate and I was booked out 2 months always. And it was so stressful. And then I did a really big rate increase at the advice of a friend who became like my manager at the time. I don't like asking people for money. He was the enforcer of getting my rate up to a certain level. I never had a single day to spare ever, except for that I was 3 days out, a ton of this year.
One of the things I was talking with the guy the other day, I mean, like for him, he's like, oh, the last job I've got's in August. And I'm like, August?
Yeah, that's so far.
Because he's doing tracking gigs, like he's tracking live events. They do book ahead.
Oh, okay.
But for the mix guy, this record's coming when it's done.
Yep.
When's it done? Don't know. You find out 3 days before they want you to start mixing on it.
We don't have calendars.
No, just how many songs are on my hard drive? That's the work I have.
Yep.
Other than that, it's all just talk at this point.
Totally.
But until it's on my hard drive, it's not my work yet.
Yep. I mean, it's made me way more comfortable with not being super booked out. I kind of love it because it gives you opportunity when something crazy, and like once in a while, like I got a chance to do a Lee Brice song that was very random. They needed it like, I don't know, 2 days. And I pushed some other stuff aside.
The other side of the rate raise is like, if you don't work as much, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it funny that the country Christian music interaction, like I have this song called Nobody from Dylan Scott, which is, I just saw it crossed 100 million streams or whatever. It's just random one song, and I've just recently started doing some more country music. The rate raise is where I was actually going with that. Yeah. Like you're better off working less with a higher rate.
Totally. Like we don't have royalties. So all we have are credits. So we got to get on the biggest stuff we possibly can to make a sustainable career.
I don't know how you feel about this, but it's like, I didn't do music for money. Like that was a secondary thought.
Yeah.
I was just doing it because I loved it.
Yep. Right.
I was just happy for all the gear to pay for itself.
Yeah. For me, it started out like that, definitely. But then I moved to Franklin and now I got to make some money.
I know. It's a different story. And there is actually a market to sell enough music to justify
there is
spending on a mix.
Relatively speaking, I still think labels are getting a deal because no one's pushing back at all. I don't know why I got into that because it's very uninteresting.
Well, it's some of the people who will watch will be people who are thinking, could I do that? Something
that I think people will find interesting is about 4 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 now, I was charging $150 for a mix online. And felt like I was rolling in the dough to get even that. Because I come from playing in a band for 10 years. You would shudder if you knew how much money I was making.
It's a hand-to-mouth existence.
Yeah. And I was basically married that whole time, which is it's a whole nother.
It's a single man's life. Right there.
It really is. But my wife is pretty cool. She dealt with it, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. So it worked out at the end.
The first few mixes I did at the beginning was just $200.
Yep. And
I just was like, I'm just doing a demo favor, when you get somebody proper to mix it at some point, And then, I had that accidental, well, it went to radio and became a number one. And I'm like,
Oh, man.
But I'm not a mixer.
Yep.
And then people start calling me for mixes and then saying, can you mix this person? I'm like, that's an A-level artist. You want me to do it?
Man.
And then I say, well, I told him you charge $1,000 a song. And I'm like, shut up.
Freaking out.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm working at a church. That's my income.
That's crazy.
This $200 a song was pocket money for the side, to buy me some more gear. And then it turns into this, I'm doing that for $1,000 a song.
Yeah, a level of money you probably have never thought you would achieve at all.
Well, I produce records for $1,000 a song.
That's crazy.
You're giving me $3,000, I'll produce your record. It's mixed, it's done, it's the whole thing. You come to the studio, we're going to track it, we're going to mix it. And I loved it. It was fun. I never did it for the money.
Right.
I just wanted everything to pay for itself.
Yep.
And did it for the fun of it.
Just don't want to lose money.
But I almost feel like, I think one of the lessons here is if you're doing it for the money, it's probably not going to work.
Oh, no. There's a million other better things to do.
You love it. You have to really love it.
Oh, yeah. I'm obsessed with audio. There's no way I'd be any good at it if I wasn't, like, researching it constantly. And in my spare time, I'll use Plugin Doctor. You know, the thing where you can analyze what plugins do? You can see the harmonic series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't know that one. I haven't checked that out.
It's fascinating to see, like, what does this plugin actually do? And you'll see a huge EQ curve just by putting a plugin on.
A visual representation of what
we're getting technical and we don't want to go there. I had been trying to convince my wife to move probably since 2014, and we just did two years ago. It wasn't going well. I knew that for me to have a sustainable career in music, I'd have to be in Nashville, LA, a music hub. Everyone I know is in Nashville, so it just made so much sense. And she just was so not into that idea. And then slowly over the years, I don't know, she kind of like started actually picturing that working. I don't know. We just decided, yep, let's do it. I had just gotten 2-3 years into my career and I was like, how do I take this to the next level? Because I'm getting a lot of cool stuff, but I just want to make this a sustainable, like, last forever thing. And I don't know if that's possible if I'm 500 miles away, completely out of the action. 2.5 years ago, she was sold. We had a really discouraging time looking for houses because after 2020, things just skyrocketed. Pay way more than I was comfortable with. Having kind of like a higher mortgage than I'm comfortable with as motivation, you got to make things happen. Get some cool gigs. Pay that mortgage. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation so that you can grow. So far, it's been amazing. At the time, 2 years ago, we had a 1-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and it was just chaos. I'm driving a truck, the biggest U-Haul they have. So it's me and the dog in the car by ourselves.
In the truck.
Yeah, and then we have both of our moms came with the kids to help us. 6 hours in, it's the dead of night. I look out behind me in the rearview mirror, and there's a tire just smoking, billowing smoke.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like freaking out. I have my entire house inside this U-Haul, and it's going to break down on 65, super dangerous highway to break down on.
Absolutely.
So I stop at a gas station. I look around. I don't see any issues. I wait for it to cool off, and I just keep going. And I think I drove the rest of the 2 hours 40 miles an hour on the highway with my hazards on. It was horrible. It was smoking a little bit, but I thought if I just went slow enough and stopped every now and again, it would, make it. And it was horrifying. It was the most stressful thing.
Oh, that's
we
great.
missed our final walkthrough of the new house.
Oh.
And we almost missed our closing. It was just the most stressful time ever. But we made it. Took some time to get settled in, but now it's finally like, okay, this is home.
I mean, how's she dealing with it in reality?
She loves it now.
She does now?
Yeah. But when we first got here, she immediately, I think she was so stressed, she got super sick. We've never seen...
Was it COVID? I mean, that was...
I don't think so. She just got her tonsils like almost closed shut.
Oh, yeah.
And she's the sickest I've ever seen her, like in the 13 years we've been married. And it was horrible. But now she loves it. Like the programs we have our kids in, making friends.
So she's doing okay here now. And has moving to Nashville mattered?
I thought about that. The first year I was like, yeah, I pay double my mortgage. And like, why? I'm just sitting at home and mixing. did I make a horrible mistake? Probably in the first 6 months. And then I noticed, you know, you do your taxes at the end of the year, and I was up 35% the first year. And I was like, okay, maybe. I don't know if that actually did have to do with moving here, but it's a factor. So do I think I could have probably done the exact same thing off of momentum and being in Illinois? Maybe. But then the year after that, it's like up 35% from that. So I do think it's making a huge difference. The people I work with, I feel like they're friends. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, or I feel like I'm making really great, long-lasting friendships with the guys that I'm working with.
Well, that's key. I'm telling you now, relationship tops everything. Perception is the other thing that drives reality. And you being in Nashville does add to the perception part of the puzzle.
That might be a thing.
How many people have come to your studio and listened to mixes? Like, you could probably count them.
Three.
Yeah, you count them on one hand,
years.
right?
Yep.
But I'm wondering if you have any like mix or song stories or things where, you know, something got rescued, or like a trauma that turned out well, or a trauma that turned out bad.
I have a funny story, but this person will probably listen and know who it is. I was working with this producer and we had a deadline to hit. It was the next morning, and we always find ourselves in these situations where the mix is due tomorrow and it's not done. We gotta figure this out. So we'll get on a stream call. I'll stream the mix to him. He'll tell me decisions to make, that type of thing. So we're going through, and every now and again, I mean, this guy is super popular. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's an amazing producer. So I'm sure he's getting calls about, you know, who knows what all the time. So he's got to go. We're into this late in the night because he's had a full, long, probably 2 sessions in one day. So it's getting late. I think we start at 10 p.m. And every maybe 45 minutes to hour and a half, he gets a call. Fantastic to work with. Like, so friendly and calm to the process, but all of a sudden it'd be like, I gotta go, and just hangs up right away. And I'm like, oh, something urgent he has to take care of. And I'm just sitting there, and it's 11:30, 15 minutes go by, calls back, we get back into it. And this will happen like periodically through the night. So every 45 minutes, hour and a half, I'll call right back. Hangs up. And then it's getting on to like 2 a.m, 3 a.m, and then we're at 4 a.m. I'll call you right back. It hangs up, and I wait. 4:30, 5, 5:30. The sun starts coming up. I see that it's getting light outside. I'm waiting there for an hour and a half. I'm like, this guy's not calling back. So I hang up. He had fallen asleep. So I was just left there to sit and wait.
I can't say I haven't been there.
In the moment, I'm not like mad. It's just like, what a crazy thing. Tomorrow comes, it's due today, you know? Yeah. It's the next day. I sleep till 10 because, you know, up till 5 a.m. I don't hear anything. We didn't finish it. We didn't turn it in. I don't hear anything till like late that night. And it's like, deadlines, do they exist? Because I've had so many situations where it's like, it needs to be done by this day. I turn it in. I bust my butt to get this thing turned in by 5 p.m. on Friday. I'm waiting for feedback. Don't hear from anyone. It's like a, 911 emergency. This has to be done by this day, or everyone's gonna die. Or I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yep.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday comes around, and the A&R's like, oh, this is great. I had such a crazy weekend. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to listen. And I had seen this A&R person post pictures of them at a beach all weekend. It's like me and the mastering guy are like losing our minds, stressed out, like to get this thing done. But, the A&R's having a great time on vacation. Yeah. It's a crazy weekend. I couldn't even listen to it. Like, okay.
Somebody once said this to me, and you may end up playing this in your mind. There's no such thing as a musical emergency.
Yeah,
it's like, in reality, there is no musical emergency.
It's true. That is a refreshing...
Nobody's going to die.
Yeah, that's a refreshing statement to hear. But still, somehow, I am forced to believe that there's musical emergencies. And I try to deliver...
Absolutely.
When people say... as the years go by, I feel like I am taking people's deadlines less seriously because I've seen so much stuff, and I want to err on the side of being able to be a part of more songs than saying no to any song that you say no to could do something really cool.
Yeah,
so
FOMO's
a huge thing.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Being in a creative world, there's a certain level of, the fear of rejection is a human condition.
Oh, 100%.
We all have it, right?
That's the worst thing we face.
Right. And then the tapes start playing in the middle of the night. Like sometimes when you don't hear it, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. You don't know.
It's a bad thing for me.
Well, you don't know. So at 3 a.m, you're starting to play these things. And
I do think to some extent we can control what we at least try to think about, or if we practice gratitude, I think that's another thing that helps you keep those dark, horrible thoughts away and focus on the great things that you do have, because most of us are so blessed, to be able to work on music for a living is crazy. It is. It's a miracle. I've been in healthy and unhealthy spots with that. Seeing other people get stuff that you're like, oh, they hired me last time and now they're hiring this other person. It's like, ouch, my feelings.
Yeah.
None of this is personal at all. I had a really clear thought the other day that helped me. If a producer hires someone else, it's like, it seems kind of personal. Like, I don't like your mixes, I'm going somewhere else. But it's really just, this song doesn't belong to me. It's their song. Like it's the producer's and the artist's brainchild. And if, they want to act in the best interest of that song. So if they go to someone else, it's because they really believe that that's the best option. It has nothing to do with me as a person or even my talent level, how good I am. Music is 100% taste and subjective. There is no right or wrong. This is the next example I was thinking of. This was my first kind of actual shootout. It was a while ago. It's with a mixer that I don't often come up against. I had a producer hire me, and he told me the label wants to do a shootout between you and this other guy. And I was like, let's do it. And obviously I'm putting my all into this mix. So I turn it in, and then the producer allows me to hear the other mix after I turn it in. So I compare it. I'm like, yes, I did it. This is so much better than the other mixers. This is what I thought. And the producer was like, man, you killed it. This is amazing. It's incredible. Great job. I knew you would beat him. And then the artist gets to choose. He's the one who makes the choice. And so he chooses the other guys. And I'm like, I just literally cannot understand. I'm listening to the two and I'm just thinking, I just can't understand a world where any person thinks that this one is better than mine. But that really taught me a very important lesson about objectivity and taste. All of us mixers are humbled on a daily basis, but this was a really important lesson in humility, where it's like, I'm not right. There is no right. It's so subjective, and it's at the whim of whoever is making the choice. And I've had many other scenarios like that. I like my mix way better. They chose the other guys. The only thing to do is if you like yours better, then good. Keep doing what you're doing, because that's you're doing you. This has happened to me a couple of times. And a couple of times I would listen to their mix and I'd be like, I can see why they like that. I mean, that's not the way I would have done it, right. But it's good. What that guy did is good. Right. But then there's a couple of times when I've listened to it and I've gone, no, something else is going on here. I've only done this a couple of times, but I would just get that guy's mix and my mix and label them A and B or B and A. Oh yeah. A blind test. And blind test them and send them off to a couple of people I trust and just go, which one's better? And mine would be picked 100%, right? Yeah. Completely blind. And then I'll say, well, they picked the other one. And the person will, huh? And then they go back and listen and go, well, maybe they're focused on, and then they would pick a thing. They liked the way the vocal reverb was, or the one thing, right? Yeah. So there's that, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is relationship colors
things. If it's not just you and the producer, and especially if it's the artist and the artist has a relationship with that other mix person, they've probably had side conversations.
Totally. Yep.
And then an input. And then really you're not hearing from the artist the things that they're focused on.
Yeah.
Because if you had, you might have been in a different. So I'm just saying there are some things that sometimes go on.
Yeah.
And the proactive people tend to do better. They don't always win.
Well, there's a million reasons. Like you said, it's political, where it's like the artist has always used them. They have a better time interacting with this mixer. It could be that. Yeah. It also could be this mix isn't better, but this guy has had country number ones. Like there's a million reasons.
Yeah. Credit is what's the name on the credit? But I do sometimes that's it. See, from my situation, what happens is I'll mix a band, and this has happened to me several times. That it's their first record or an artist, and the label's like, use Ainsley. And then they'll look at my credits and go, oh yeah, he'll be great. And I'll mix their record, and they'll mix another one, and then they blow up and they become huge. And all of a sudden, the budget is there to pick anybody in the world they want.
Yeah.
And so you just look at what, they look at their favorite music and go, well, this guy mixed my favorite music.
Yep.
Let's use him. And it may be somebody completely out of our world.
Yeah.
Just Serbian or somebody like that,
right.
Chris Lord-Alge or somebody.
How many times, see, that's, yeah, that's really annoying. It's happened so many times to me. And I find that more often than not, they're incredibly unhappy with the mix that they got from A-list mixer, because this band is nobody to them yet, and they don't care. Maybe it's that. Making music is about the relationship and the trust. He doesn't know your every preference or whatever, so you're going to get what he decides for that mix. And that's really what you get.
There's a couple of other things going on, because I've been in the case where I've heard the mix back from the person and gone, okay, that's incredible. That's an amazing mix. I completely get that. There's also this other thing going on where basically I got a call in my heyday from this guy who said, and it was a well-known rap artist. I mean, it was spoken word music kind of thing. I got the tracks, and I called the A&R guy who sent them to me, and I said, dude, I'm going to have some reference here, because this isn't my world. I don't normally do it. And he's like, oh, you rock guys do great with this stuff. And I said, just pick a couple of things that have sold well that you feel like this could sound like be in that sonic realm. So he picks a couple of things, and then there's an Usher record and a Kanye record in there, right? And I'm like, and I listen to those, and I'm like, I can do that. That makes sense to me, right? So I mix this record, I make it sound like that, and the A&R guy's going, that's exactly right. You did exactly right. Gives it to the artist. Artist hates it with a passion.
Oh, gosh.
The A&R guy was kind of shocked. He's like, well, I don't know what, that's just a surprise to me, because you made it sound like, well, the artist doesn't like those people for a start. That's not what he wants to sound like.
Right.
And then I said, well, tell him to send me stuff that he thinks sounds great. Dude, he sends me stuff, and I listen to it, and I'm like, this is terrible. Yes. I cannot mimic that sound. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Because I think it sounds bad.
Right.
And I just said to the A&R guy, dude, I can't put my name on something that sounds like that. I'd be embarrassed to have mixed that. He may love that, but it's not my vibe. Right. And I think that sometimes, where an artist grows up and they find who they are and they get to this particular place, and then they want to sound like something that's really different to what you like or what you do. And so they pick that person, and I'm like, well, they don't like me anymore. Well, it's not they don't like me. They are looking for this softer, gentler sound. And I'm not a soft, gentle guy for the most part. I've learned a little bit of that, because those kind of lessons help you to expand your horizons. But that urban stuff that guy did, even when I listen back now, I'm like, I still don't get it. It's still bad.
Yeah, that is a thing. I do think there's something to that, where there's a degradation of sonics, in general, where some huge records sound pretty terrible to me. And I think it has to do with, this is a huge tangent, but rough mixes that people
Oh, yeah.
get really used to, but they're my least favorite thing sonically is when you can hear a limiter just smashing, and you can hear the like you can hear what's not music about the music. Like I can hear it bouncing into that. It just doesn't sound real. I like mixes that are transparent. You can you forget that it's audio. It's a real picture or whatever. I don't really have a good way of explaining that, but that's what I'm hearing on a bunch of like when you go down the New Music Friday stuff. There's some mixers that blow my mind still. But then there's these mixes where it's like, I would never in a million years want anything to sound like that ever, just because it just sounds wrong to me. On the other side of that, there's younger people that could be their first record and they have a like special bond to the music and they don't hear the imperfections, or not imperfections, but like the
technical stuff.
Yeah, the technical.
Oh, that's where it comes down to. It's
Totally.
this feeling.
Right.
It's all about emotion and feeling.
Yep.
And the technical part of it are just tools.
Right.
But we can't let that get in the way.
100%. Yeah. That's all that matters in the end. And that's why, people do gravitate towards
the rough mix.
Yeah.
You better pay attention.
Yeah. That's 100%. And I think, I've gotten crazy about, making sure not a single thing is missed about a rough mix, even though I probably still will miss things, but it's the most important thing you could do is keep all the emotional elements, how it makes you feel, the same while improving it. And that's the true challenge.
So when you A/B, it's just like, oh, that's better.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the same thing, but better.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because and sometimes producers, and especially people who've not necessarily produced that much, but the artists produce their stuff, and I'll say, oh, they'd be embarrassed to send me their rough.
Yeah.
I'm like, however you're listening to it, just bounce that and send it, because what that's going to tell me is what's important to you.
Right. Yeah. And how many times have you ever just gone through with the mix without the rough mix and then gotten the rough and it's like, I just wasted the entire time. No, this is so wrong.
If you don't hear the rough, you're in trouble.
You have to.
Or to me, I've worked with producers like, if you gave me that track, you meant it to be heard. Right?
Yep, exactly.
So I make everything heard, right? This is just, everything's heard, everything has a place. And then I listen to the rough and I'm like, I could have turned half those tracks off.
Yep.
They would never have known. And yet they're all audible in my mix.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And cutting, it's the whole less is more.
Yeah.
And so.
And how much time you took getting that part to be heard?
Trying to make it so everything could be heard. Yeah. I mean, that production really didn't work with everything being heard. Right. The stuff needed to not be heard.
Right. My biggest credit is right now it's Josh Ross Trouble, which is how.
It's the country thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of like you hit me up saying you really like this mix, but I think that was a Jim Cooley mix, which I love too. He's definitely one of my favorite mixers. He's awesome. I try to copy his sound all the time. So Josh Ross is probably my biggest. My most complimented is this record it's self-titled The Main. If you've heard of them, they were
okay. I should check them out.
They were, like a scene, like pop punk-ish band. Like,
is this CCM World? Or?
No, this is
mainstream.
Like rock alt. That's my most complimented, and I think it's owed a ton to the producer because he got the bulk of the mix sounding amazing, and then I just kind of fine-tuned and tried to blow stuff up as much as I possibly could. But that's probably the most fan favorite, people love the sound of that record. And then a new one that people seem to like, it's another pop punk thing, which is Real Friends. The record's called Blue Hour, which it's like a really cool, creative, new school pop punk thing. My main thing is Christian music, which would be the very first song that got me into the equation is the biggest song, which is Almost Home by Mercy Me. Just recently, another one kind of popped off. Debut artist called Seth Schleter. It's called Count My Blessings. And that one kind of like rose really fast. And then I'd have to look, Judo Muso.ai. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I keep track of. It's hard to remember, like, oh yeah, what artist do I work on? And then I go through that and remember, or you can actually see how much your stuff is listened to. So,
do you have much or any interaction with artists that you're mixing, or is it just the producer?
Most of the time, it's just producer.
Yeah.
And there's some guys who really like to keep it that way. But there's other artists like Mercy Me. I've hung out with, all amazing guys. But in general, I have no contact with artists. Yeah. So it's just me in my little room getting notes through the producer or from the producer. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
Which is why not having people in the room with you, that's why we talked about rough mixes being the most important thing. That's your only guide. That's basically everyone who's a part of the song in the room saying, that's what you should do with that. So
there you go.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of everyone being there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, that's a great point.
I was doing a ton of stuff when I first got started. I was doing production, remixing, mixing, and the path was like drawn out for me by people. People wanted me to mix. And that's literally why I do what I do, is because there was a need, and that's where I was at the time. And I followed that trail. So I feel like your path kind of gets determined by the demand of people around you.
I thought I'd be a producer, and I did produce some records when I first came here, and I listened back to them. I still love them. They're great things. But I was a little weird for the CCM business because I had no country flavors. You know, CCM does have country flavors and gospel.
Especially now.
Like, yeah, more so now. And I didn't have any of that going on. But people would call me and go, that record sounds amazing, man. You know, that's great. Yeah, it's not going to make it in Christian music, but it sounds great.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, now there's opportunity. I feel like stuff is popping off that never would have going through the radio label path. Because things can blow up online, like Josiah Queen. I've just seen him like completely blow up from streaming alone. I've heard people turn him down because he's too different for CCM. But now it just happened backwards. It's like radio drives sales and streaming, but the streaming drove radio's decision, and now he's got his songs on the radio that never in a million years. Yes,
he has label now.
Yes. Yeah, this all happened when he was independent, because no one really.
Now, here's another whole discussion. Have you gone down the rabbit hole of AI yet?
It depends what AI you're talking about. In audio, I'm not convinced yet, at all. I've seen one mastering AI do actually a really good job. I think it's called Aria mastering, but I was actually shocked because I'm not a huge believer in robots having emotion or feeling and bringing that to the equation. If there was a ton of money in music, there would be a ton of money for development of these tools. But I don't think there's enough. You need the best minds in the world. If you did mixing AI, I don't see it happening in my lifetime.
Yeah, I think it's a long way off. I've just recently had where AI have replaced the vocals or created entire BGV arrangements.
Right.
Like I've got this lily white, gentle little pop girl, and now I'm turning her into this bearded, tattered black guy with a very rustic voice.
Yeah. That is really crazy.
It's freaky.
Yeah.
It is absolutely freaky. So, and I've been impressed. It's actually pretty good. I was just speaking to somebody the other day who's actually in the podcast business, and he does a lot with AI. And he said the main thing AI is doing right now is the menial tasks. So like we can put this video into the AI program and it'll remove all the ums and ahs and the silences and like just at the snap.
Man, that's gold
just
right there.
Edit.
Yes.
The video, do that first pass.
Yeah.
Boom.
That would be nuts. See, that's the stuff that is actually really cool. Yeah. I love ChatGPT for like, if I have to do a bio or something, I'm terrible at writing, and just putting points in there and having it spit out something that sounds legit is incredible. And I have been a part of records that do AI harmonies. Like they had a girl singer. I was like, oh, who is this girl? And it was their singer with AI. It was mind blowing.
I know, because it doesn't sound bad. It's okay.
It was so believable.
It was so
I had
believable.
no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny to me is like, if the vocal's been tuned too hard before the input, it's still tuned too hard.
Yeah.
And the person flips to falsetto and the AI vocals.
It's crazy.
It's like it's tracking exactly. Like, I think ultimately the quality of the inspiration that was put in is going to determine. It's not going to add inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the creative input is still on the human.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And especially for audio processing, which is a different thing, making creative decisions with audio and how to make this song emotional, there's just no.
No, that's the human.
There's no way.
Well, Doug, thanks for coming, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I mean, it's
awesome.
It's a little bit of a risk, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I will be watching you and seeing how you do.
Yep.
Get on.
Awesome.
All right, mate.
Cool.
That's a wrap. Well, if you've made it this far, I'm sure you enjoyed this discussion with Doug. So hit the subscribe, notification, likes, all that kind of thing. And of course, we had a lot of conversation that is not in this video. If you want to see that, go to patreon.com. The link is in the description. Make sure you come back next week. Ian Eskelin discussion is really very enjoyable. We get into all kinds of fun stuff. He's a 4-time Dove Award winner, 2-time Producer of the Year. All right, till next time, may your mixes be hot and blessings on you.